Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this September 7th, 2016 day in our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can catch my show every evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Pacific time. Don't forget that on FirstAmendmentRadio.com, or they play the show at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And if you can't go there, go to my long-standing website at arcticbeacon.com, and we're celebrating almost our 11th year on the air and on my website. And I've been on the air a number of years on many different stations, and I kind of settled down here at First Amendment Radio. Let me tell you what I got in store for you today. A little bit different kind of show. Tomorrow I got Greg Segal from the Alamo Ministry on. And then, let's see, tomorrow is what? Well, the next day after tomorrow, I'm going to go back to part 15 of the greatest off-Broadway stage play ever produced in the history of our country. That'll be part 15 that I'm working on, and that's called The Presidential Elections 2016. But today, I just want to kind of do a little bit different show. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and I'm going to answer them for you, and then you can kind of answer them yourself when you're listening to the show. And it brought to mind an email I got. They said, Greg, why don't you take any callers anymore? You used to take callers all the time. And I said, oh my goodness, I took callers for so many years, I never got a chance to get a word in edgewise. So I decided for a while to just do a show where I didn't take any callers. But I'm working on a thing, and I might talk to Nicholas over at the radio station, where I can maybe do, let's see if I can get it into my schedule, do a show once a week, maybe at the end of the week, where I'll take callers, and we can talk about what I talked about all week, and see if I can get at least a word in edgewise this time. But anyway, I got a lot of questions today, a lot of simple questions, like, are you going to vote this year? Now, I've been covering this a long time. We got Trump and Clinton running. And are you going to vote? And if so, who are you going to vote for? Well, let me answer that question. I've never voted in my life. You realize that? That's a pretty long life I've been living. Never once sat into a voting booth. And people asked me why, and I said, I'm totally scared to go into one of those things. Kind of tongue-in-cheek. But I explained it one time on my show, a couple times, and it's a long, involved story, and it involves many things, but I never did vote, and that's my constitutional right as an American citizen. Now, I fall into the category of being one. When I first didn't vote, I just was a young kid, and I didn't care, to be honest with you. The first time I could vote, I didn't really care about politics or anything. I was an athlete. Now, the second chance I got, after my athletic career at the University, it was Western Illinois University, where I was a football player. After that was over, I decided I got tired of getting my head beat up every now and then, getting beat up, get hit. Oh boy, I tell you, I'm lucky to be still walking today. But I got tired of doing that, so I said, outside of using my body, I better start using my brain. And so I spent an extra year or two in school and decided I wanted to be a journalist. Now, I don't know if I was using my brain when I did that, but I thought I was. So I started out my career as a journalist at the Naples Daily News in beautiful state of Florida. Guess what happens? I decided that it wouldn't be right to vote because I wanted to be non-biased. I didn't want to take a Democratic side or a Republican side. So I never voted. I didn't know anything about the Vatican-led New World Order. I still believed in our country, still believed that people had a choice. I still believed in the system, but I thought as a journalist I better stay, away from that because I want to be fair when I do a story. And if I voted one way, basically, how could I be fair? Somehow, some way, subconsciously, my bias would come out. So when I ended my journalistic career after living in Rome and in the Vatican for years, I realized that your vote didn't count anymore. Whether you vote Democrat or Republican, it didn't matter because they control the selection of our president, or they control the selection of politicians. They have this way of making you feel that you have a voice, but you didn't. So I guess I just learned too much. got smart too quick. So in the third stage of my life, I couldn't vote because I said it's ridiculous. To go into that polling booth is just to cave in to the Vatican-led New World Order. Well, right now I asked you the question, are you going to vote? And I'm going to answer that for you. Yes, this is going to be the first time in my life that I go to the polling booth. And I hope I don't get frightened to death when I don't even know how do they do it. Do you go into a little booth like a confessional or something like in the Catholic Church? Well, anyway, I decided to do that. Now, does that mean that I have a renewed belief that America works? No. What does it mean then? Why am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because I just want to vote once in my life, because this may be the last time America ever gets to vote. And I want to just say, you know something? I know who I'm voting for. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. And the reason I'm going to do it is because I think both of these candidates are members of the New World Order. I just think if we get Trump in there, it's kind of like a vote for Brexit in England. And what it really does is really maybe delay the inevitable. And maybe that is a vote too for, creating even more chaos, but I don't know. I just, for once in my life, want to vote, so I'm going to vote for Trump. And one of the reasons is, I tell you what, I can't imagine living in this country for 4 years, listening to Hillary Clinton. I mean, I could not. I'd have to just basically forget about ever covering politics again. At least Trump's entertaining, and I could have a little fun with that. So let me just make it very clear. When I left this country the first time, it was because I couldn't stand Ronald Reagan. And the reason I did, and it turned out to be a good way to think. I didn't know. I just thought I didn't want that Republican in. I said, you can't have an actor as a president. I still believe that presidents should have a little bit of knowledge about the country, not coming off a movie set. So I left. I said, I'm out of here. I'm going to go live in Italy for a while and be a journalist and see the world. And I was a young kid. But I'm almost thinking the same thing here. If Hillary Clinton's elected, boy, I'd sure like to be in a place not in this country. Now, with Trump, I could put up with it. I want to see if he gets jobs to people. I want to see if he builds that wall, which would really be needed. And I want to see if he really helps America, at least for a few years before the Pope decides to put a kibosh to this country and turn it into one of his New World Order states. Countries, world, whatever he wants. So that's why I'm voting. So you make up your mind. What are you going to do? Now, many of my listeners understand you don't have a vote. You understand the Galilean dialectic. So maybe when I open up my show where I take questions again, if I can get that approved by Nicholas, maybe do it once a week, hour where I just field questions, and we'll see. Then you can tell me what you want to do. Now, the second thing I'm going to tell you, are you going to go to church this Saturday or this Sunday? That's a good question. Or do you still go to church? And if you do go to church, why do you go to church? Now, let me tell you this. I'm not going to church either Saturday or Sunday. Now, put it mildly, I guess I would be called kind of like somebody who worships alone. Worship with my dogs. I take a walk to the ocean and begin to talk with God a little bit. Now, I can do that on perhaps any day I want. I don't have to have a special day. But I'm just asking you the question. Are you going to worship on Saturday? Do you realize? Maybe, some people, look, for a long time, I reached a point where when I was a Catholic, I was forced to go to church on Sunday all the time. I was forced to go to church during the week. And I'll tell you, it was a miserable time. I'd sit there and glad I had a good imagination because that got me through all those hours. Because I'll tell you what, I didn't understand the first thing about it. And I just thought, well, if you go to church and you put your body in that pew, God will put you in heaven. That's at least what the priest told me. I was born a Catholic, right? And when I got fed up with all that, grew up, I became an atheist, so I didn't want any part of anything. Now, when I started to get close to Christianity through understanding how evil the Vatican is, learning about it as a journalist, I started to, head off to different services. I went to Buddhist services, Hindu services. I don't think I ever went to a Muslim service there. I don't know why. Maybe I just had this feeling that if you go to a Catholic church, I've been to enough, they're just the same as the Muslim services. So maybe that's why I never went. But then I went to all these Christian services, Seventh-day Adventists. I even went to a lot of Jewish synagogues, Baptist churches, you name it. And just so you know, my mother was Jewish, so I guess I'm Jewish. But she never practiced Judaism, and because half her family was killed in Poland, and they had to either fake that they were Catholic or be killed themselves. So I never, but I did go to some. I did go to some Jewish ceremonies, and then I got into all the different things about worshiping on Sunday is the day of the sun worshiping that the Catholics want, and how the Pope wants to turn Sunday into his day. And then I got into the Seventh-day Adventists who say you have to worship on Saturday, the Sabbath, like the Jews. That's the last day of the week, etc., etc. And so, to be honest with you, I got more out of those Saturday talks I had with the Seventh-day Adventists and people that were Christian than I did when I sat like a local yokel at my Sunday services as a Catholic. So as I continued on in the quest to find out what my life was all about, I'm at a particular point in my life where I'm worshiping alone most of the time, or I discuss things with people of certain ministries, and these people know who they are, and I really feel that's right for me. Now, what are you going to do this week? Are you going to go to church on Saturday? On Sunday? And then what are you going to think about when you're there? Now, I'll be honest, when was the last time you went to one of these services? What day was it? Was it Saturday or Sunday? Now, let me tell you the last time I went. It was last Christmas when I went to my brother's house, and I spent Christmas with my brother and his family, a great family. And they go to some kind of new Christian, it's called a Christian church, but it's kind of one of these services, and I don't get into their life. I don't get into, the worship. They know my positions, and we talk about it. But they asked me if I want to go with them that day on Christmas Eve, I think it was. I said, sure. So I went to that, and it was really entertaining. I mean, the music was great, and everything was like it was like in a big auditorium, and it was almost like going to a concert. But at the end, I noticed that the pastor flashed the old 666 symbols. And I was a good boy, though. I didn't say anything. And I said, are these old Jesuits trying to do the same thing here? I mean, are they trying to really lead us astray again? Taking over. I bet you their policies here wouldn't talk about the Vatican being the Antichrist system in the book of Revelations, or talk like the Protestant reformers did. But seeing that it was Christmas time and things, I didn't want to go up and talk to the pastor about that afterwards. Now, in the old days, I used to go up all the time at these Christian services and ask them questions. And boy, the answers I got, I didn't go back to many of the churches that I went into, to be honest with you. So that's my question. What are you going to do? When's the last time you went? And what are you going to do in the future? And do you think it's important to talk to people who, I really do. I think it's important to talk to people who I think have been led astray by the Vatican. I really do, and by our government. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because it's a responsibility that we have. The more you understand about them, the more you need to talk about it. So, that's just a couple questions I wanted to ask. And let me see if I can think of a couple more here for the first half hour. Okay, so we got a lot of questions to ask you guys. Really, that's why I'm doing this kind of a little bit different show. It's kind of one of these things that just builds up, right? You got so many questions you want to ask people, And I go out into the world, and nobody seems to really give me any good answers. So I wanted to go to my audience, who to me is a lot more educated on a lot of issues. So I got so many of them. Let's start out with some simple ones. Like, do you think the elections coming up are rigged? Do you think they're, if they are, how did they do it? Do you think that every vote is going to be counted, and the real winner, of course we got the the Electoral College, which is kind of weird for me to even, to think about. But do you really think that each vote's going to be counted fairly? And the real, as you like to think, if everybody goes there, and even though we got two choices that you may not like, and even though I may think that it doesn't really matter anyway because they're all involved in the New World Order, you'd like to think, well, at least let's have a fair shot at it, right? Do you really think that will happen? Or if not, how do they do it? I mean, do they control the computers and then go, okay, they got some guy like in the Wizard of Oz that's back there and go, okay, we gotta take off 2 million votes here to make sure that this one wins? And so how do they do it? You computer experts, or you people out there that say 100% elections are rigged, well, tell me how they do it. I don't have a clue. I kind of think that the guy in the Wizard of Oz sits back there and goes, okay, let's shave that vote off. We got to make sure, because the Pope said this one's got to win. So I don't know. Maybe that's what goes on. But tell me what you think about how they rig it, if it is rigged. And many people think it's a select. Do you think it's already selected, that the president of this country, or the president, I should say, of the corporation of Washington, D.C., the CEO, is already selected? That'd be a great question. See, that's why I want to do a show, I think once a week, where I just take questions. And I don't want to get on there and not get any questions. So I'm starting to ask them so that maybe I can, get a few people each week to call me with answers to all these things that I have no idea about sometimes. Secondly, do you think this is going to be the last pope? That's a good question. I had a guest on yesterday, Leo from Rome. Leo Zagami from Rome says he's sure this is the last pope. So, okay, do you think it's the last pope? And if so, why do you think it's the last pope? Okay? And if it isn't the last pope, well, what if he dies tomorrow? I'm thinking, well, everybody says he's the last pope. What, are they going to keep him on, life support? So to say he's going to be the last pope, it's a difficult question, I think. So what do you think? Think they're going to keep him alive? Let's say he died today or tomorrow. He's old. Are they going to fake? They got a backup pope that looks like him? And I got another question. This is a good one. We got all of these terrorist attacks in America. I don't have to name them, but Boston Marathon, San Bernardino, and on and on. And isn't it amazing when you go to the internet, there's these people out there that think all of it's fake. Now, there's other people that don't think it's fake, and they think it's real. And then you see all this all the YouTubes that are showing you how it couldn't happen. Look at all this is staged. So what do you think? Do you think all of the terrorist attacks are faked? Are some of them faked? And if so, which ones, and which ones are real? Now, we don't have to go all the way back to 9/11. I'm not going to ask you the question that I can already answer so easily. Yes, it was an inside job, and we know so much about it. But the questions I'd like to ask are what's going on in today, today. So that's a good question. What do you think? Do you think they're fake? And if so, provide me evidence. And don't give me I gotta. Well, you can give me a YouTube, but get me the best ones. Now, here's a good question. I love doing this. Let's have some fun. Do you think Alex Jones is really Alex Jones, or could he be a comedian that supposedly died a while back? And if so, what's that comedian's name? You tell me. Who do you think he really is? Do you think he's for real? And the next question, do you think he works for the New World Order, or he's really a true blue patriot? That's a great question. How about Steve Quayle? Oh, how about, there's Jeff Rentz. That's pretty good stuff going on. Yeah, pretty good questions. Simple questions that I love to hear what people think. Now, here's another question that really has always been in the back of my mind. What do you think the one world religion will look like? What is it going to be? I've talked about I've said it a million times. We're going to have a new one world government, a one world religion. So what's that one world religion going to look like? Is it going to be what? I'm trying to figure this out. Is it they're going to get rid of all the churches in the world and turn them in everyone is going to be the same world religion? What are they going to call it? One world religion, and everybody, Buddhists, Hindus, Catholics, Christians, we're all going to be, or supposed Christian, we're all going to be under, and what's the hierarchy going to be? Okay, are they going to destroy the Vatican? That's a good question to ask. Are they going to just, blow up Vatican City? What are they going to do with Washington and London? Are they going to blow up the Capitol building and start over again? What's going to happen to all these cathedrals and all these schools, and what's going to happen? How is the one world religion going to look? That's a great question. I mean, maybe there's some really good minds out there that can, that are thinking about these things deeper that could help me. And that question, I don't even want to try to answer right now. It would really ruin my evening if I had to really get in depth on that. So let's leave that for another show. Maybe one of these the weekly show if I get it going in the next couple months. So those are some pretty heavy questions. Now, another question I'm going to ask you. This is the toughest one. What are you going to have for dinner tonight? You didn't expect that one, did you? And the reason I ask that is, do you really believe it's important to eat healthy? Do you really think eating healthy can keep you alive longer? And if you do believe in healthy eating, what do you eat every day? And do you eat vegetables? Do you eat fruit? Do you like fish? And it's really important because healthy mind, healthy body, healthy spirit, right? All goes together. So what do you eat? I remember growing up as a Catholic, I had to eat fish on Friday. They wouldn't allow you to eat meat. That was the rule. And if you did, it was a sin. And you'd have to go into the priest and say, I committed a sin, Father. I went to McDonald's on Friday after the baseball game, and I had 2 hamburgers. And I'll tell you what, when I was a kid, I didn't want to eat anything but fish on Friday, but I like fish, so I wish they would have said that you cannot eat anything but fish every day of the week. That would have been a better rule from the Catholic Church. I'd have been perfectly happy with it. So, ask yourself what you're going to eat tonight, and do you like eating healthy? Do you think it's important? And that leads a whole big question of, and I'm going to do this in the second half hour, is do you think Big Pharma's trying to kill you? We'll be back in the Investigative Journal in 3 minutes.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, welcome back to the second half hour of the Investigative Journal. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to the Investigative Journal on FirstAmendmentRadio.com. And we're doing a little bit different show today. I'm just asking a bunch of questions. And I love it. You know, that's why I became a journalist. I have a lot of questions, thousands of them, thousands. And the reason that's why I became a journalist, because I'm not very good at answers. So I'm going to leave you to do that, the hard work. But without taking callers today, I guess I have to answer some of my own questions. And we did some hard ones in the first half hour. Let's lighten it up a little bit. And the reason I want to lighten it up a little bit, somebody's calling in right now and I can't take the call, till I start that show where I take callers. I'm going to do it once a week, maybe add a sixth show, because I do 5 days a week. We'll see if we can figure that out. But anyway, let's a few simple questions like, do you really want to learn the truth? That's a good question. I think it's simple. Most people are going to say, sure. Well, what is the truth? Do you want to learn the truth about your government, your country, the religion you are involved with? Do you want to learn about the hierarchies of all these and really get to the bottom of it? Or do you just want to believe what other people tell you? Well, I want to find out for myself. I don't know about you. So that's a huge question. We can answer that when I do my first show. I'd love to answer that. I'd love to get people to talk about that. And let's do some simple ones. Do you like people? Now, when's the last time a person asked you that? Do you like people? And if you say yes, well, what kind of people do you like? Are there certain people you don't like? And why don't you like them? Can you really experience hate in your life? Do you really hate anyone? Or do you just say you hate somebody? Is it just something you say when you get mad? Do you want to see a better world for the people around you or just yourself? Now that's a real interesting question. And I'm not going to even begin to answer it, but those are some of the things I want to deal with on my show that I start, because I've been talking a lot without asking questions and having people talk to me on the radio, and I did that for a reason for a while, because for years that's all I did, and I never got a chance to get one word in. So now that I've gotten a couple years of getting all my words in, now let's go back and talk together, at least once a week. So, those are pretty tough questions, even though I said they were going to be easy. But here's one that's really easy. Do you like dogs? Now, to me, that's very important. Do you like dogs? And if you do, what kind of dogs do you like? Do you like dogs just because you're tired of talking to people? Do you like dogs because they give you unconditional love? Or do you like dogs because it's just something in you that says, you know, what God said, take care of the lower creatures? What is the reason? And I really don't. I mean, I love dogs. And can you communicate with them is another question I'd like to ask you. Do you think it's important? Can you communicate with human beings properly? And can someone communicate with dogs and human beings? What is your position on that? Communication's important. Do you think it's important to communicate with other people? Would you rather sit home alone? Or would you rather go out and meet people? And if so, what kind of people? So look at all these questions that just seem to be never asked, just thought about, never really discussed anymore. And all of these have a lot to do with what we talk on this show, because what we do is, you know, a lot of times when you go to my show, you're going to find a lot of things that you didn't hear in school, or you didn't hear on the pulpits, or you didn't hear anywhere, and you're going to go, well, why is this guy talking about them? Well, the reason is because I asked a lot of questions my whole life, and a lot of different people gave me answers when I was younger, and I started to really think about it. So it took me deeper into a lot of subjects. So that's that. Well, I started out the show, and I want to end it this way, by asking you, are you going to vote in the presidential elections? And do you think it's rigged? Do you think your vote counts? Do you think it's important? Do you just want to sit at home and go, no, this is the Hegelian dialectic New World Order at work. What I do doesn't make any difference. This country's, gone down the tubes, etc., etc. Well, what I did is, not tomorrow, because I have Greg Seago from the Alamo Ministry on my show tomorrow, but the following day I'll continue with part 15 of what I call the greatest off-Broadway stage play ever produced in the history of mankind. And I think you find it quite interesting, because I look at the presidential elections as if they were a movie, a stage play, a sitcom, etc., and everything's scripted, everything's done, prepared for us, and we turned it into reality. So it's a combination of a movie and a reality show all together. So I thought what I'd do today, since I said I am going to vote for the first time in my life, not because I believe America is what they say they are, the land of the free and the home of the brave, it's because I never voted in my life. And I want to delay the New World Order at least a few more years, hopefully more than a few, and I think Donald Trump would do that. At least it would be a sign that the country is moving towards nationalism and not globalism. Now, Brexit did that in England, and then you heard my take on that. And I guess I can ask this question. Do you think Brexit was a sign of nationalism? Or I'm going to make something a little deeper here. Or was it a sign that England is now reliving its prophecy of being under the crown? Now, the crown happens to be on the head of the Pope. Now, what does that mean? England is going to do the bidding it's always done the bidding of the Pope. It's straight away from that. Now, if Trump wins, I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you think we're moving towards nationalism, a stepping on the toes of and the head of globalism? Or is it another sign that America's under the crown? And I'm not talking about England, I'm talking about the crown on the Pope's head. You answer that question. And where would it lead us? So, I am going to say that I think that if you look at these candidates and look at it as if it's a movie, I believe both have been selected by the New World Order. However, Trump for another reason. And I think I would rather make the first time I ever voted in my life to vote for him, because it would be a vote to show you that I have a reason for understanding who he is. He works for the New World Order and the Pope. And I think it would delay the inevitable left-wing movement towards these foolish globalist policies, at least for a while. And it would be more interesting to see it play out that way than it would be to play out with Clinton. So, pick your poison, I guess. But I always said I'm doing it so I could at least say once in my life I voted. And then I could say that's because I got old and senile. But anyway, let's do this for the end of the show. Enough of me today. So what I thought is I'd play you a performance that Mr. Trump did today in Greenville, North Carolina. And you can listen to what he's going to say, because I know a lot of people on my show they turn off politics. But I think it's good to listen to this guy, because he talks right to us. And there's got to be something behind it. And this is this performance is pretty good. He does them every day now. And this one's getting pretty good. So I thought I'd let you listen to it for the last 10-15 minutes. Here is the actor, and I say that, the lead actor of the Republican Party, giving a performance today, live. So it is a live stage play. You're getting it more or less as a radio broadcast, okay? You're getting it like you would if you lived in the 30s. But you can go to the YouTube and get it as if it's a sitcom. But he gave it live today like a stage play, and it's, I thought you might want to listen to it. So here he is, the lead actor, Donald Trump.
And in 62 days, we're going to win this state, and we're going to win back the White House. But to do that, you must get out and vote, and that means early voting, which begins in North Carolina on October 20th. In other words, start voting. Start voting. This is our chance to end years of injustice, corruption, and betrayal, and we're going to bring back our jobs, by the way. This is our chance to solve all of the problems that have gone unsolved for so many years. Boy, I'll tell you, many years of gross incompetence. And that includes bringing back our jobs that have been taken away from us like we're a bunch of babies and moved to other countries that were smarter and sharper than our leaders. That's not going to happen anymore, folks. Not going to happen anymore. For how long have people been saying Washington is broken and controlled by special interests? You know that. This is the year we can fix it. That's because change has come from the outside of our broken system, and it's a very corrupt system at that. We will never fix our rigged system by relying on the people who rigged it in the first place, and that's what you're doing. We need change. We need change. We will never solve our problems by relying on the politicians who created our problems. So to every American who has been waiting for real change, your wait is over. Your moment of liberation is that's loaded up with people, and outside they have thousands of people also. So that's what's happening. And we're going to go visit the other room right after this. Is that okay with you people? I mean, you already have the better location. We have to go and visit them, right? But a vote for Trump is a vote to restore democracy, to heal our economy, and to bring millions of jobs back into every forgotten stretch of this country. And boy, that does mean North Carolina. The change will begin my first day in office. Number one, we're going to eliminate every unconstitutional executive order and restore the rule of law to our land. Then we're going to begin implementing plans for construction of a wall along our southern border. In other words, we will build the wall. Who's going to pay for the wall? Who? Exactly right. They will. They will. They will. And you know, they're doing very well. Mexico, honestly, they're doing very well. It's like the eighth wonder of the world, what's going on. Massive factories, massive plants are being built. Unfortunately, the bad news is they're being filled up right here. They're being filled up by people from Mexico, not by people from the United States. We got to change it around, folks. I'm sorry. Got to change it around. And it will change. This will keep out the violent cartels and gangs, as well as their drugs that are poisoning our youth and many others. Many, many others. But that's just the beginning. I'm going to ask Congress to send me a bill to repeal and replace, finally, Obamacare. It's a disaster. Under Senate rules, that bill can be passed with 51 votes. 51. Not a big deal. Especially if we hold the Senate, and I think we will. Remember they were saying, oh, well, if Trump wins, well, most of those people are up, but I'm higher than some of them. So it's very interesting. I think we're doing very well, I have to tell you. I think we're doing very well. The pundits are extremely upset. Meaning a Republican Congress and a Republican president can save Americans from this disaster in a single... Very simple. And remember the judges, remember the Supreme Court, justices of the Supreme Court. Don't ever forget it. Don't ever forget it. And don't ever forget the Second Amendment, which is under siege. And you don't vote for Donald Trump, you're going to see what's going to happen. You're going to see what's going to happen to your Second Amendment. It's not going to be pretty. The National Rifle Association, NRA, endorsed me. The earliest endorsement they've ever given, I believe. And you got to get out. If you believe in the Second Amendment, you got to get out and you've got to vote. So it's going to be a very busy first day. I'm going to instruct the Department of State to immediately suspend the Syrian refugee resettlement program and develop plans for the construction of a safe zone in the region. And the safe zone will not be paid for by us. It will be paid for by Gulf states that have plenty of money. They don't spend it because we're going to be, think of it, at $20 trillion, double the amount of debt that we had when President Obama first came to office. So we're not going to build it, but we all have hearts. We want to take care of people. We're going to build beautiful safe zones in Syria, and other people are going to pay for it. It's called the OPM theory of money. I love that theory. It's called other people's money. And remember the power we have, because some of those countries, many of those countries, wouldn't be there for a long period of time, believe me, if we didn't protect them. So we have a lot of power. Just remember, we don't use that power. We don't even talk about that power. My opponent wants a 550% increase in Syrian refugees over the large number that are already coming into the country through thousands and thousands through President Obama. She is running to be America's Angela Merkel, and you see what happened to Angela Merkel of Germany. They had a massive defeat recently in the elections because Germany has had problems like it's rarely seen before. And look at France and look at other countries. It's catastrophic, folks. It's catastrophic. I have friends that go to France every year. They love it. I say, how did you like it this year? They say, we don't go to France anymore. France isn't France. Pretty tough. We'll go to North Carolina instead, okay? I think so. Even our great mayor, Rudy Giuliani, is smiling at that. But it's true. Happens to be true, Rudy, right? I'm also going to notify all countries that refuse to take back dangerous, illegal immigrants who have committed crimes in this country, that they will lose access to our visa programs and many, many more little goodies if they continue to refuse to take back the criminals that have been placed in our country. Right now, they refuse to take them back. Gang members, drug lords, we bring them back. They say, we don't want them. So we fly the plane right back. And they go right back into our country. It's unbelievable, actually. This is the measure that is called for under current law, and I will totally enforce it. They will take those people back, believe me. The Secretary of State is required to take this action, but Hillary Clinton refused to do so, just refused, resulting in thousands of criminal aliens being released into United States communities, and by the way, lots of crime and even death. Furthermore, I will direct every agency in government to begin identifying all wasteful job-killing regulations, and they are going to be removed. This will include lifting the restrictions on American energy. We're going to get your electric bills down. I will also notify our NAFTA partners of my intention to renegotiate the deal. Totally renegotiate the deal. It's got to be a two-way highway. Remember that. Right now it's one way. Our jobs leave our country and go someplace else, mostly to Mexico. And we will withdraw from the TPP before it can be ratified. That's going to be another NAFTA, believe me. We're going to bring these jobs back to North Carolina, and we're not going to allow our companies to leave North Carolina. There will be consequences if they do so. They're not going to move to a country, make their product, sell it without any tax, without any tariff, right into our country. So we end up with a tremendous loss of taxes and tremendous unemployment. We get nothing. We get nothing. And you know what? If they knew there was retribution, if they knew there was consequence, they wouldn't leave. They wouldn't even be talking about it. They wouldn't even be talking about it. Hillary Clinton supported NAFTA. She supported China's entry into the World Trade Organization. And she supported TPP. Remember, she said it was the gold standard. By the way, I don't think anything can be as bad as NAFTA. But TPP is going to be pretty close. It's going to be a disaster, and a disaster for this area. She just does whatever her donors and special interests want her to do. That's why she's raising all this money. But we're raising a lot of money. We're putting out a statement tomorrow. We've raised a lot. And a lot of it, unfortunately, came from me. What am I going to do? But a lot of it came from small donors. I think we're averaging $61 a shot. And we raised millions. We're going to be reporting a very big number tomorrow, so stay still. In a Trump administration, we will negotiate trade deals on behalf of American workers, okay? Not for some other country or some company owned by the special interests and donors that give her money. For the American workers. It's going to be now America first, remember that. And our worker comes first. We will work to ensure that farmers in North Carolina have the tools they need to thrive at home and compete on a level playing field in foreign markets. And that means negotiating fair trade deals that do indeed put America first. Crucial. I am also going to convene my top generals. We have a great one here. Actually, we have a great two generals here tonight. One of them graduated #1 in his class from West Point, just like General Douglas MacArthur. General Douglas MacArthur.
Okay, not a bad stage performance by the lead actor Donald Trump. And my question to you, since we started asking questions at the beginning of the show, do you believe what he said could really happen? Or is it just another fairy tale? Well, we'll get into it more on the Investigative Journal all week. Thanks for listening, and see you tomorrow.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.